Hello, I'm Marlis Arnold, trade show marketing consultant and author of the book, Build a Better Trade Show Image. Welcome to the Trade Show Insights podcast with news, tips, and tools to expand your knowledge of exhibiting. It's time for our annual review of the Exhibitor Show in Las Vegas, held in March 2008. We'll highlight some new and innovative products and services for exhibitors, along with some clever exhibit display and booth attraction ideas. Last year, we featured some of the innovative earth-friendly products from Ecosystems. This year, they were back with even more innovations, including graphics that are printed on panels made from recycled soda bottles. Now, a lot of people at this year's show were going green in a lot of different ways, but this really, I feel like, is a really important thing to start using basically trash and turning it into exhibit materials. The fabric that is made from these recycled soda bottles, it's really amazing. These plastic bottles are chopped up and crushed and then melted, and fibers are created which are then used to weave the fabric. And while it may not look quite like traditional fabric, it really does make for very sharp graphics, so it was very impressive. You can see an example of these graphic panels in the show notes at imagespecialist.com/tradeshowinsights. Also in the photo, you'll see how Ecosystems used kind of a little play on the nutrition facts on the back of all the food that we're so used to seeing. They called it display facts, and it had statistics on the recycled materials that they had used in their booth. Very clever usage of a very common, ordinary tool. And I should also point out that the lighting for the graphics was from LED lights, which are much more energy efficient and much cooler than typical trade show exhibit lights. And from graphics to flooring, or maybe we should say graphic designs on your flooring. Who says flooring has to be a boring element? Wise Industries showed their wild side with zebra print flooring, and they called their booth Flooring Gone Wild. The carpet was literally zebra print and then had black grids to break up the zebra so it wasn't just, totally dizzying. They also had some very tasteful looking zebra print furniture and with black accents in the booth as well, and it really tied it all together and made for kind of a retro chic look. Again, there's a photo in the show notes, so be sure and go check that out. And by the way, zebra print was not the only kind of creative flooring that they were showcasing. They also had some of their other carpet samples as butterfly cutouts and mounted on a pillar in their booth. So again, a really creative way to show things off. For a cool mix of nature and retro chic, Expo Technic showed off their design skills using a conference area that featured black leather chairs with metal frames combined with a bamboo fence that was painted white. And so it was just it wasn't a really closed off conference area. It was very open, very airy, but it definitely provided a frame for that space in their booth. And it gave it kind of a hip lounge look. They also had a huge wall where they had acrylic bubbles hanging from the ceiling with letters inside of them, and the lights projected through the bubbles made reflections or shadows on the wall. It's really hard to describe. There's a photo in the show notes, and you'll just have to go take a look at it. But again, it made for some very interesting texture and perspective in the booth. And if you've always wanted a touchscreen kiosk in your booth, but you don't really want that techie look, then you need to take a look at the photo of the one used by ImageWork Communications. It really looked more like something out of a Pixar movie than a high-tech trade show tool, which was the perfect way to showcase an interactive media company that creates experiences to educate and entertain your audience. We're talking truly audience-driven interactive theater. And while you might not think of your booth staff as a design element, the ladies of Soft Space did. Each day they dressed in one of the colors of their booth: orange on day 1, green on day 2, and blue on day 3. And we're not talking just matching shirts here. Oh no, these ladies went head to toe, including their matching shoes. I mean, it was a great attention to detail that really helped to tie them in with the whole look at their booth and made them a part of that design element. It was very subtle, but a very effective communication tool. And now for some clever theme and attraction examples. If you want a tasty way to attract traffic, Crepes a Latte is a themed catering company with an outgoing staff that helps to gather and work the crowd in your booth. Their booth was popular every time I walked by. They were doing all different kinds of milkshakes and specialty drinks, and there was no shortage of people standing around waiting for a sample. And while attendees waited, the Crepes a Latte guys were working the line and making it a whole entertaining event. And of course, based on the name, you can probably guess they're not just making drinks. They also do crepes and other cool stuff too. And speaking of food, MG Design built their theme around the Idea Kitchen. They started with their pre-show mailer, which looked like a refrigerator, and when you opened it up, it included a scratch and sniff tiramisu sample. So that set the tone, and then thanks to a team effort with Creative Cooking School of Las Vegas, they had demonstrations in the booth with tastings, and then they also hosted their VIP event at the cooking school on Tuesday evening. Their grand prize drawing was to win an interactive cooking team building experience. And then they were handing out recipe cards with the recipes that the chefs were preparing in the booth. Those were their takeaway items. So everything just tied together and reinforced that whole Idea Kitchen theme. Okay, so maybe the actual theme this year was green exhibiting, but for me, it seemed like that food and the smell of food was an underlying theme. I attended a session called Accent, SCENT, your exhibit, and it was led by Gail Hancock from UNLV, and she taught all about the science of smell and how to use it to your advantage in your exhibits. And then later that day when I walked the show floor, I discovered that InstaPhotos is now offering Enhanced Scents, which is an aroma machine and coordinated scented giveaways, which are typically candy. But it ties everything together to reinforce your theme and your message through the sense of smell. So that does seem to be, again, back to what I always talk about, the multisensory exhibiting. It's finally taking hold, and people are beginning to incorporate more than just sight and sound in their exhibit. Now here's a little different twist on recycling. 3D exhibits repurposed part of their own red booth from last year's Bling campaign, and they shifted the red shag, which was made from cut-up t-shirts. They moved it from the wall to the floor, and it became the carpet of the booth. And they used a show-and-tell theme. They invited attendees to come into the booth, use some touchscreen kiosks to share some advice or tips with other attendees, and then they displayed those tips up on a video wall. They also plan to compile the tips into a little booklet, which is going to be used as their post-show follow-up mailer. And finally, so what would you do if you ended up stuck in a short aisle at the back of the hall, behind two tall island booths, and right next to the restrooms? Well, Impact Unlimited decided that they would tackle the situation head on. They placed a card in the reg bags that invited attendees to come to their booth way in the back of the hall next to the restrooms. And the reward for that, if you made it to the booth, you got registered to win an iPod Touch. Well, when I stopped at their booth to ask them, they said that they had gotten some great response. And a lot of people had said that they probably wouldn't have noticed them if it hadn't been for that card. So again, pre-show promotions do pay off. And finally, a few creative giveaway ideas. Nth Degree took the theme of getting things done, and their drawing was for a copy of the best-selling book by that title. But their promotion, their pre-show promotion, was a small hand-sized notebook that was in the Reg bags that talked about having a to-do list that never ends, being a way of life in the trade show business. And so obviously they were giving you a notepad to record all your to-do lists. So very clever tie-in, inviting people to come to their booth. Some other creative giveaways. Elite Expo gave away a tree in a tube, a small, real, live tree that you could take home and plant. I happened to bring home a Colorado blue spruce, and this was through a partnership that they did with the Arbor Day Foundation. So very clever way to capitalize on that green theme. George Fern, who is a services contractor, gave out a little pocket toolkit. So that was a very handy, clever tool that tied in with what they do. And possibly the new hot giveaway of the show was a USB bracelet, which was a combination of the little rubber bracelets that you see all the time done as fundraisers with a little USB plug incorporated right into it. Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues as long as it is shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the show notes. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes at imagespecialist.com/tradeshowinsights. Until next time, I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening.